What's going on, everybody? All right, so I've been hosting some Q&A sessions every morning, which are going fantastic, and a few people are asking about modes, and I don't want to get into it in the Q&A just because that's going to drown out some of the people that aren't at a certain level, but I want to do a video on modes. Now, the only thing that you really need to know is your major scale, all right, and then just numbering those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Knowing the numbers, which is easy because you just count to 7 and then start over. And then your natural minor scale, okay? So flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. That's your natural minor scale. And what we're gonna do is that natural minor is gonna set up our minor modes, and then the major scale is going to set up the major modes. But I'm going to show you musically how to understand them, and this is going to be easier than learning a mode up and down and up and down and up and down, and then learning the next mode up and down and up and down and up and down. This is going to give you a little bit of an understanding, which is going to be better for application, but also understanding them does make it physically easier to play, so you're not just learning cage systems. So let's get right into it. All right, our first mode, this is how we're going to make these modes useful. If you take the number system, so those two scales are kind of like your prereq. Also, knowing how to build triad chords, okay? So your 1 chord has your 1, your 3, and your 5. All right, now your 1, your 3, and your 5 for the 4 chord is a 4, 6, and 1, right? And then if I go to my 5 chord, my 5 chord is my 5, 7, and 2. All right, those are the notes in each one of those chords. Now that continues if I do a 2 chord, right? And I'm playing an A major. So if I do a 2 chord, it's 2, 4, 6. All right, just that everything is built up off those triads. This is really important. The reason is there's going to be specific chords that change the key according to what mode you're playing in. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys a few. If I take the major, if I go to Lydian, the 4th mode, right now it's just my major scale, but so this is the 4th mode, but it has a sharp 4. All right, and that's kind of easy to remember. 4th mode has a sharp 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, sharp it. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Not there, but here. 4, sharp it. 2. All right. And what makes that mode specifically special is the sharp 4. What I want you guys to think about is every time we change one of the notes, if we're dealing with major, we have a major scale, and we're changing one of the modes. When we're dealing with natural minor, we're changing one of the notes in the natural minor for the minor modes. Usually, that change is going to result in 1 chord switching from a minor to a major or a major to a minor. So let me show you this one. All right, so if I have 1, 4, 5, 1. If this now changes to Lydian, I have a sharp 4. I can't go to a 4 chord. It doesn't exist. It's a sharp 4. The problem is that sharp 4 chord really has a flat 5, and it's not the most pleasant sounding chord because it's technically the 7th scale degree in the key, in its original key, not in Lydian in its original key. So what the main chord difference is here is that sharp 4. Find out that sharp 4, that note difference, what chord that affects the 3rd of. I want you to stay with me. There's a note. This 4 is the minor 3rd of the 2 chord. So the sharp 4 is now the major 3rd of the 2 chord. So that 2 major is going to be what changes that mode from major to Lydian. So now when you hear 1, 4, 5, 1 in A, when you now hear major and then a major a whole step up, that's what you're hearing, the Lydian mode. And really what you're hearing is a 4 chord to a 5 chord in a specific key. So starting on that 4 chord, you're starting on the 4th note of the mode, the 4th mode. which is why it's Lydian. Does that make sense? There's specific ways to tell what key you're in, and it's going to be usually based off of one, sometimes two drastically different chords. It's going to happen on mostly a chord changing from major to minor. So let me show you as the next one in major. We're going to go to Mixolydian, regular major scale with a flat 7. Okay, so now major, 4, 5, major. Okay, now if I play the Mixolydian, that flat 7, let's figure out. The 7 is the third note in the 5 chord. Okay, 5, 7, 2 is how you lay out the triad of a 5 chord. So now you're taking your 7 and you're flatting it. You're taking that 5 chord and you're making it minor. Okay, so now if you have an A, a D, and an E, a 1 and a 4 and a 5, that's an A. If you have a 1, a 4, and a 5 minor, you're now in Mixolydian. The other power part of Mixolydian is having a 1 chord and then a flat 7 major chord as well. If you notice, just like we did in Lydian, Mixolydian is the 5th mode, right? Lydian is the 4th mode. All right, so that's your 4, and that's your 5. That's kind of how they're laid out. Is this kind of making sense? I'm really hoping that this is sinking in for you guys. So that's how it's laid out. So that is determining whether your starting chord, which is major, is going to be the 1 chord, or technically the 4th, so the Lydian, or the 5th for the Mixolydian. 1, 4, 5. If you notice, oh wait, this 2 chord's major, that's really a 4 to a 5, so that's your 4th mode, right? And then if you notice, all right, this is my 1, oh, it's got a flat 7, right? Really popular, right? Kind of like that. That genre was like a jam band kind of genre. It does a lot in Mixolydian. So that's your determination. Okay, so Lydian again, 4th mode has a sharp 4. That's the only change. Mixolydian has a flat 7. That's the only change. So that's how you guys can get into it. Rewind that if that was difficult, and see if you can really get in there and that starts to make sense for you. Because there will be other chords that will determine those, but those are the major ones. So now let's go to your natural minor, which is your 6th mode. All right, we're going to take that. That's going to be, because it's natural minor. Let's go to Dorian, which is our 2nd mode. So you take this, flat 3, minor 3, flat 6, flat 7, that is your natural minor scale. And if you just raise a 6, so you have a natural 6 now. So it's really just a minor 3rd and a flat 7. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oop, that 6 is going to be natural now. Okay? So, in a minor key, in A minor, 1 minor, D minor is my 4 minor, right? That 6 is the 3rd of the 4 chord, right? 4, 6, root note is how you build a 4 chord. So now that 4 minor turns into 4 major. That is what determines that Dorian mode. That's the Dorian mode right there. Right? Santana uses it in Black Magic Woman. I think it's Black Magic Woman. I might be wrong. But that is how you can very quickly tell that something's in Dorian. The other thing too is, another really popular one is if this is your 1 minor chord, your A minor, right? If I go up to a 2 minor as well, the 5 of that 2, 4, 6, the 5 of the 2, will allow that to be a 2 minor chord and not a 2 flat 5 or half diminished, okay? So if you see an A minor to a B minor or whatever it is, a whole step up in minor, that is going to let you know that 6 is natural and it's Dorian. So if I take the same thing and say Phrygian, okay, Phrygian has a flat 2, minor 3rd, flat 6, flat 7. So taking the natural minor scale, it flats the 2. All right, so one way to really determine that, kind of a weird one to do, but it would be if I have an A minor and then had a G minor underneath it, because that would end up being my 3, and then my 2. So anytime there's 2 a whole step between two minor chords. It's a 2 and a 3. So this is my 3, right? So that's how you can really tell that Phrygian. That's what gives it that, right? And the reason is that flat 2 is your minor third of your flat 7. Flat 7, root note. The 2 is your third note, right? So if I did this, major, flat 7 major, technically that could be in Dorian or natural minor. Why? Because it doesn't affect the 2 at all. The 2 stays natural, and it doesn't touch on the 6. Okay, so the 6 is untouched, right? If I have a 1 minor to a flat 7 major, there is no 6th note in there. It's 1, flat 3, 5, and then it's flat 7, 2, 4. That's how you build those chords. So you would need something to tell you whether it's a Dorian or a natural minor. And in that case, you would play natural minor. That's why it's natural minor. It's like naturally how it sounds. So I'm hoping that this is starting to make sense to you guys, and rewind the video and rewatch it. Comment if you don't get it. I wanted to keep this somewhat short to kind of give you guys insight. And then the next one is pretty easy to determine, and that's Locrian, and that has like your 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. But if you look, I want you guys to just pay attention to if you're playing Locrian, the 7th mode. If I have this, right, my A major, it's the same exact mode. It's just starts on the 7. So if I have this, watch, if I do A major, if I just start here and end on the 7, that's all the 7th mode is. So you don't really have to always be thinking, all right, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, and flat 7. You could think like, oh, visually it's the same thing as your major scale. You're just starting on the natural 7 note, you know? And how you're always going to be able to tell that is the chord is going to be a minor flat 7, you know? Right, so that is pretty obvious. Now, that positioning thing, this might go over a few people's heads. I don't think it will. I don't know. You guys are pretty quick at this, but Phrygian is the same idea, right? If I have my Lydian, right, my major with a sharp 4, which is the 4th mode, to play Phrygian, which is the 3rd mode, all you're doing is taking this 4th mode and you're just starting on the 3. So that's my 4, right, 4th mode. I'm just starting on the 3 and going up. Right? So that's how you can kind of memorize the positioning. So the positioning will be the same. So what I mean by that is, oh man, you know why? Because like learning a major scale with a sharp 4 is not that hard, because you're only changing that note and that note. Everything else is the major scale. So when you're like learning Phrygian, right, it's much easier to memorize, like, oh, it's the same exact thing. And what actually makes this super easy too is that if you change, the only string that doesn't start on that 4th fret of the Lydian is the 1st string, the root note of the 4th, but the root of the mode. So if you just bring this down from the 4 to the 3, it's the same exact positioning, but now everything starts on the 4th fret. So that's your 3rd mode, and this is your 4th mode. Same exact thing. I really hope that makes sense, because that's going to make learning Phrygian and Lydian as a group, and then Locrian in the major scale as a group, you know, and you won't have to switch. And then really all you have to learn is your Mixolydian, which you're going to be playing a lot depending on the genre, which is easy, major with a flat 7. And you're going to end up seeing that a lot. Your natural minor and your Dorian just has a natural 6 over the natural minor. So go back and review this information and let it kind of sink in, and let me know, comment below and let me know if this helped. I wanted to try to get something that was a little bit all-encompassing when we're talking about modes. And the reason is, if you're just going to sit there and do I mean this as myself because this is what I did. You know, it's like, all right, cool. Like I got my first move, my major scale. All right, cool, Dorian. All right, cool, Phrygian. Right, and kind of like always starting in A. It's not really helping you because there's nothing applicable about it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, cool, man. Somebody could even say like, okay, cool, man. We're gonna play an A Phrygian. You'd be like, awesome. I don't really know what that means. Like, well, how would I come up with something in that? So that is the way to do it. And then if you're looking, as you're doing all of that, if you take your major scale, and I have a video on this is going to kind of be the last thing, but you have your 1 chord is major, your 2 chord is minor, your 3 chord is minor, your 4 chord is major, your 5 chord is major, and your 6 chord is minor. That'll help you determine, because you can look at 2 chords next to each other and then understand which one, like if you're always, you know, whatever that first chord is, it's a B minor. Okay, cool. Well, what kind of minor is it? Look at the next chord, and then you can determine, like, if that is, with that list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if it's minor, if it's the 2, is it the 3, or is it the 6? How are you able to tell? Look at the next chord and see if which it falls on, you know? Because, like, if it was A minor, right, and then I went to D major, I know it's Dorian, but really it's because I'm going, all right, well, what if that's 6? So 6, you just go up the scale, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, no, because 3 to 4, there's only 1 step, so it can't be that. All right, so if 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oh yeah, okay, that's right, because that's what gave me that major. You know, that's one way to think about it. So I hope that helped, guys. And let me know if you have any questions, because that's a lot of information to pack in 17 minutes. I know that, but I wanted to get something out very quickly because these questions keep coming in, and I want to help you. Awesome, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.